And I checked myself when I was in the shower, and I was like, no, this is not real. It was the longest cry in the shower I've ever had.
Breast cancer is not only a physical disease, it's an emotional, mental disease.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I was done.
That mom support was so important. I'm trying not to get choked up. She couldn't understand. Why did it happen to me?
I just accomplished like the worst thing that could have possibly happened in my life, and I conquered it. But I will say I have been enjoying not having breasts.
Talk to me about that. That's a new one.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
It's about you and me. Let's come together, positivity. Health is wealth, gotta take care of myself. Cause ain't nobody gonna make the change but me. So
Hello everyone. I am Dr. Marshalee George.
I'm Tillie Mirsky.
And we have two wonderful guests with us today. First, we have Miss Stephanie Perry. And then we have Miss Dionne Yates. Guess what, guys? They are all breast cancer survivors. So we're going to get into the discussions. But I want to talk a little bit about why it is Health Talks by YWS is so important. Too often, patients suffer with a lot of chronic diseases, and the scientific jargon gets over their head. They don't understand what they need to do to be healthy, to be well. This is a forum where we can be us. We can be real. We can talk down into the nitty-gritty of stuff, and we have no apologies. Okay? So let us again welcome our guests. And we're going to get right into it. Right, Miss Tillie?
Absolutely. Let's jump in. So first, I'd just love to hear each of your stories. I know that you are a longtime cancer survivor and you're kind of new to the game. So I'd love to hear about your experiences as far as first finding out about your diagnosis, mentally how, that shock and that experience was, and then going through the journey and now, being past a lot of the heat of it, what that is for you, if you don't mind starting.
Well, I found out I was on vacation with my son and a friend of ours, and I was just recently divorced, and my son was like 11, 12 years old. My daughter was in her 20s, so I was like, okay, I just got to be here for this one. Mm-hmm. And I always check myself. Mm-hmm. And I checked myself when I was in the shower, and I was like, no, this is not real. You never want to say it really happened. It's really happening. But I found it. And it was the longest cry in the shower I've ever had. Because first thing we do is, it's a lot. Oh God, I have cancer. I probably have 2 days to live. You automatically go into panic. Okay?
Yes.
Automatically, okay. But I had a very strong faith. I still have a very strong faith. And I made my appointment the next day because I was coming back from my vacation after that, and went and saw the best breast cancer doctor that was at George Washington. Mm-hmm. And, I was single. I did not want to involve everyone in this. One, because my sister irritates me because when I'm like, okay, I'm having an asthma attack. Oh, poor Stephanie. That's not something you want to hear right now. Mm-hmm. What I want to hear was, okay, you got this. Stop being a punk and handle this, okay? Mm-hmm. But the little girl inside of me would say, oh, Lord Jesus, help me, Lord, okay? So when I went to see the doctor, I didn't tell anyone, and she said, yeah, there's a lump. I said, okay, what's the next step? Mm-hmm. So I had to go and have my first biopsy. Mm-hmm. That was an experience to go through, and I wasn't sure if I could handle that by myself. So I asked a friend of mine to just drive me. I didn't say what I was there for. I just said drive me because I didn't want him to know, everything about what was going on with me. I'm kind of private when it comes to that kind of sharing because you get the to me, I don't. You get that sympathetic, that sympathy. You know, it's like, well, what can I do for you, dear? And I need encouragement. You need to say, you got this. Okay, keep moving. So I went for my biopsy, and to go through that experience, when the doctor said, oh, okay, well, we have to go into your breast and we're going to numb you with Novocaine. And it's like the one that the doctor uses when you go to the dentist. I said, but there's a difference. There's a big difference here, okay? So I need the heavy duty drugs. Where are those? Okay? 'Cause this one is not going to work for me. The procedure took about 10 minutes. And I had gotten to the point whereas during it, I couldn't take anymore. The pain, just from the procedure. And it really, it's, to me, in this day of technology, I thought that they would come up with a better procedure than to pull and tug and, okay, hold on and scratch and this and that. And it was like, okay, you better find this real fast because I'm about to jump off this table. Okay, you know, you have so many. I'm sure now it's so much different because I was like not able to be comfortable. You know, when you're going through that, it's like, okay, let me be comfortable. Let me just get through this. But I had to go through that, and when I got out and I went to my car again, I did the cry, but I didn't. I told him, just don't say nothing. Just sit there, be quiet. Just let me go through this because I still had to get that out of my system.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
you still want to.
You want to vent that out.
Yeah, because that holding it in, that's toxic. Okay, and I go back, and she said, first when she said, well, you have two forms of cancer. One is the lump was pressing against my skin. So it was developing a skin cancer. I said, then, you know, first thing come out of my mind is skin cancer. Wait a minute, the girls don't come out on vacation like that. Rapping is not fun, okay? I'm like, what do you mean? How is this possible? What she said, because when I was in college, my nickname was Scoop because I like to know stuff. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it isn't.
Yeah.
But I said, no, you got to explain this to me. But when she explained how the lump had pressed against my skin like this, that's how it developed the skin cancer. And so I said, okay, so what do we do? What do we do? Because we need to find out what the treatment process is. So she explained it to me and the meds and the treatment that I had to go through. I'm going to be very honest with you. I have problems remembering some of that because it was hard.
It's traumatizing. You got to remember, your life was normal one day, and then all of a sudden you get this diagnosis.
Right.
It's trauma.
And nobody wants to go to the doctor's office and say, oh, you got the C word. Nobody wants to hear that, okay? And some doctors, unlike Dr. George, has a very good bedside manner. Some don't.
Yes,
okay?
that's true.
You know, I had a male doctor tell me one time, you know, I was explaining to him about my cancer, and he said, oh, you didn't have cancer. That wasn't cancer. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. You don't look like my breast cancer doctor, so you need to shut up. Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, because don't sit up here and tell me what I went through, what I had.
That's your experience.
Right.
That's your experience.
And he just lost another patient after that. Because I was like, you need to understand what a person was going through. And in all honesty, men do not understand what we women go through. And there are some women in the medical field that don't understand it either. They don't want to say, hey, I'm feeling kind of different up here. And someone will be like, oh, don't worry about it. You'll be all right.
But one thing that is very important to note, breast cancer is not only a physical disease, it's an emotional, mental disease. Because even after treatment, the mental disease from that breast cancer lives on. You know, because quite often my patients would say to me, you know, I'm free from breast cancer for 2 years and my husband want to know why I don't have energy to cook dinner in the evening.
Oh, yeah.
Or he wants to know why it is that I'm not doing the activities that I used to do prior to the breast cancer. Because that mental health, that trauma, that depression, the anxiety, loss is loss.
Yes.
Whether you lost a person, whether you lost a job, whether you lost a boob, loss is the same areas in your brain that is experiencing this loss.
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing. That one part, the medical part was addressed. The psychological part, didn't think about that. Because it's like, okay, moving on, I got to keep moving because I got my son, I got to do this, I got to do that. And so I didn't have time to really address that and really even seek out any attention for it. You know, being in the Black community, you know, when we have a problem, we have a problem. We don't go and get professional help for this until it is absolutely, positively necessary.
Exactly.
Okay.
There's a delay.
Yes.
There's a delay in mental, because of the stigma. The stigma with mental health problems being carded as if, okay, you're really crazy, you know? But, you know, we all do need support.
Yes.
We all do need support because sometimes the loads of life is just too heavy for us to be alone. Sometimes we need somebody objective who can break things down and help us to learn tools and strategies, how to manage the stresses.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's after like 20 years, you know, like the first 10 years, I had to go back every 6 months to follow up. And a couple of times it came back. But it came back in a different form where it wasn't the skin, it was just the lumps.
It's just the lumps.
It was just lumps. I was like, okay, I can deal with that. And thank God, as time progressed, the technology just got better
and better.
and better. And I'm like, okay, so it's not a bad thing to have to still deal with this. But after the 10 years, then I had to go from 6 months to every year. And every year, I get that done. I stay on top of that. It really frosts my cookies when I talk to my sister. And she said, oh, I haven't had a mammogram in like 10 years. I'm like, I could slap the taste out your mouth because, hello, survivor, I found it. Go and get yourself checked out.
And she's your sister. She's a first-degree relative, which increased her risk of having breast cancer. But some people, the fear of not knowing, that's what makes them don't go for the test.
Exactly.
They don't want to go because they don't want to feel that something is wrong.
Right.
You know? That's where that comes from.
But it's in this day and time, technology has advanced so much, not just in the medical, but in the psychiatric field, because you're not afraid or ashamed to say, I need to talk to somebody. You know,
Yes.
I'm having issues with this now.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see that it has progressed, and I'm thanking God every day that a test comes back and says, benign. I keep them all.
You keep them
All
all.
my letters, I've had them. When the test results come back, I'm waiting. I'll call them up if I don't see it in 2 weeks. And now they're, well, you can get it online. No, I want a hard copy to say benign.
But you know what? When you look at that, Miss Perry, that is such a blessing. You're a 20-year-old breast cancer survivor. And, you know, even your story, it inspires others. You know, a lot of times when we heard the word breast cancer, we think of death and dying. That's no longer the case. We treat breast cancer these days like how we manage hypertension and diabetes.
Yes.
You know, it's a chronic disease. You have to have good surveillance, and then you come out on top.
Yes.
So I want to hear from you, Miss Yates. You know, Miss Yates, you are our newest breast cancer survivor. Your last treatment was in May of 2024. Talk to us a little bit about how your breast cancer was found.
So for me, I was, you know, I like everybody, I always checked my breast. The majority of the time it would be in the shower or if I'm lotioning my body or something like that. So I would check it. So I just felt a little knot. So it's not unusual for me to have a knot. So normally when my cycle's about to come, I'll get a large knot on my breast. So that's how I know it's coming. But this one was in a different spot. So I'm like, okay. So when I came to the doctor's office, I mentioned it. My doctor felt it and she was concerned because I really wasn't concerned, but she was like, well, no, you need to get it checked. So I said, okay. I went and got it checked. They said, so what I felt and then what they saw was more than what I felt.
Whoa, it was larger.
So I was like, wait, what? And so it was like, yeah, it's another one. So I said, okay. So then I had to go. They said, well, you have to go get the biopsy done. So I said, okay. Went for the biopsy. They explained everything to me. It's more frightening hearing what they have to do than actually going through it. So when I went through it, they numbed me and then they showed me the needle. I'm like, why did you show me that? I didn't see that. So
Did you sit there and go, who is that going to be used on?
I was like, they numbed me. And interesting, it didn't hurt. The only
So they got better. No Novocaine.
it stung when it goes in, but the only part that hurt was when they actually snatched it.
Extracted.
Extracted it. So
You felt the
that was-
pulling, the tugging. You felt it.
No, it's like when it shoots. So it's like it kept hitting. So that's the part that I kept feeling.
Wow.
So, a little bruising and stuff. So they did it. Then I think it was like maybe a week later, I get a call from the person that performed it. And she said, yeah, your results came back. It is cancer. So you have to get with the breast doctor. Okay. That's it.
How did you feel? Let's take a pause. Let's take a pause. Let's talk about your emotion, everything that you have going on in your life at this point in time. And then you get this news that you have breast cancer. What was your state of mind?
I was already going through depression, anxiety, amongst other things, because I'm military, so everything was just piling up. And at that time, I had just got back from a deployment like a year. I had been back maybe a year.
Where were you deployed?
Kuwait.
Kuwait. Okay.
Wow.
So I had recently been back. So
Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much for your service.
So when she said it, I'm on the phone like, wow, that's all you got to say to me? Like, I was in more shock, like the way she said it, like, oh, I've done hundreds of these a day. So yeah, you got it. Go talk to a breast doctor.
So it was very candid. It was
it
was emotionless.
Yes. So
Wow.
me, I'm just sitting there on the phone listening and I'm just,
Talk about poor bedside manner.
Wow.
So when I got off the phone with her, I just sat there and I was just like, well, I don't know what to say. So, I made the appointment. I didn't tell anybody. I made the appointment.
Why didn't you tell anybody?
Because I didn't want, so even though she said it was cancerous, I said, I gotta really talk to somebody. I said, because I gotta understand what's going on. Cause
First, before you take it to your support system.
Right.
I got
So,
you.
I said, okay. I made the appointment for the breast doctor. So that was like maybe like a month later, I could get in. Met with the breast doctor and she's talking. I hear her.
But it's not.
Certain things was popping out and I'm just staring at her like, I could hear her. She was like, yeah, so I know it's a lot to take in. So are we good? And I just looked at her and I just broke down because I was like,
So you were there in that appointment by yourself, or did you have somebody?
by myself. I went by myself.
Wow. Okay.
Because I didn't want anyone else to come because I was like, I gotta process this.
This first,
Right,
right?
right.
Got you.
So she told me I had two types. I had HER2 and estrogen. So it was two different things that they were going to have to deal with.
So while you say that, the HER2 and the estrogen, let me break that down. The HER2, these are receptors, right? HER2 receptors is very aggressive. This is the one that we want to be very aggressive with the treatment. But she has estrogen, which is a good type of cancer because we can target it with hormonal therapy to help to suppress the estrogen, right? Some people just have HER2 only and no estrogen or no progesterone on their cancers. But she has some estrogen.
Wow.
But the HER2 new is aggressive, so they have to really be on top of it because it's like they're merging two together in order to manage her.
Wow.
So
Go ahead,
I
Dionne.
had to, she basically just told me that, explained everything. So then that's when everything just started rolling. So after I got out of the doctor's office with her, I went to my car. I was in there crying. So then before I left, I said, you know what? Let me just call my sisters now. So I called one sister and told her. And, you know, because with this particular sister, she's like, I'm not going to say she worries, but she's more like, oh, okay, well, you know, we're going to do this and that and other. I didn't get that this time. When I told her, she was just like, okay, so, all right, well, okay. Then she was like, I don't even know what to say. I said, that's a first. And she
Wow.
didn't know what to say. And she just started crying. So I was like, yeah, I'll call you back. Called my next sister. I told her. And it was just quiet. And she was just like, I said, hello? So she's like, she was crying. And I was like, are you crying right now? She was like, this is so impersonal. Like, you just blurted out and then I'm just supposed to deal with it. I said, pretty much. So hung up with her. I said, I'll talk to you later. And then I just went home because I was just like, it was so much. And then I had to meet with my oncologist. She started explaining everything to me. So they were telling me all this stuff that I was possibly going to go through while going through the chemo. So when I started the chemo, I was just like, that day, I went in there, relaxing. I had my sister with me, and, you know, I just was like, okay, this is going to be good. You know, I'm starting the chemo. I can get in there. Started it. I pretty much slept through the whole
infusion. Yes.
infusion.
Oh.
Now, for me, the difference is I didn't get the...
You didn't get the port, so you have to get the IV.
I had to get the
Yeah, they got to put in the Heplock.
I wish I got the port.
Really?
Because every time she got to get an IV put in, every time she has treatment. When you do the port, this port is under the skin by the subclavian vein, and that can last at least 5 years under the skin. So now every time they got to look for a vein, and she might get bruised.
And that was the issue. So if I could tell anybody, get the port, because now my veins are so weak. It's going to take a while for my veins to come back. So now I have to get IVs in my hand. And
That's uncomfortable.
Yeah, because I never did it because my veins were really good.
Yes.
Now I just got to get everything in my hand. They were so worried about me breaking out in rashes and throwing up. None of that. I had diarrhea. The worst, absolute worst. Feeling everything, could not keep nothing in. I was, I had to be on a brat diet, which that was like bananas, rice.
Oatmeal.
Wow.
The brown diet.
The wrong diet.
Because you know you can't have wheat, you can't have any of that. Like it's pretty much like, you know, you're a child, you just can't have any of this stuff. So I just was sitting and I'm like, but I will say, oatmeal was the best thing ever. When going through chemo, oatmeal was everything. It tasted so good. It tasted so good. I had this thing where my hands were breaking out. I don't know why, but it was peeling. So I don't know why I was going through that, but I had that issue.
You got to remember with chemotherapy, kill both the good and the bad cells, right? And a lot of times you get subcutaneous or skin conditions because these cells are rapidly dividing and they are the ones that's going to tear off quite easily, you know, but they will build back up. Every time you get a treatment, it's going to break down. You notice that? Yeah.
My hair I had locks. My hair was coming out. Well, actually, because I was trying to hold on to it. So when I actually went to rub my back of my head, I could feel there was no hair in certain spots. I thought I was going to cry, but I didn't. It was like, almost like relieved. I was like relieved, or if that makes sense. Like it just felt so
liberated,
fresh. Yeah, like I just felt just good. Like just the head.
It's like the weight just gone off of you.
Just to cut it off. I actually felt like, you know, he was like, go outside because it was Sonny. He's like, go outside, just let the wind hit it. Because he has a bald head. So it's the best feeling ever.
Okay.
So,
And how was the feeling?
it was nice. And I will say, going through the whole process, I will always rub my head, and it was always a nice feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom had cancer too, so I knew when I was younger, I used to rub her head, and she used to say, she really liked the feeling.
The feeling, right.
So it was, I had to go through that point. Then I had got thrash. Don't know, that popped up. So I had to take something to rinse
Yes,
my mouth
yes,
out.
it's the thrush.
Mm-hmm.
You get this white coat on your tongue, and your mouth is very painful and sore. It's hard for you to eat food. So sometimes we do a special swish and swallow prescription to help heal it. Mhm.
I forget what it was, but it was Benadryl.
It has lidocaine in it.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, it's a mixture.
I
Yeah.
had to mix it to.
How long did you have to deal with that?
While she was in chemo, because again, it's a rapidly dividing cell.
Mm-hmm.
So anything subcutaneous skin, mucous membranes are all affected.
Wow.
Yeah, so she had to have used that throughout her chemotherapy cycles.
So it kind of like would last the first 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So it would be every time I got it, it would come back. Dryness of the nose, that was killing me. They kept saying, "Oh, do this, do that." None of that was working.
Mhm.
So I took the lotion that they told me to use. I took that and stuck it up my nose.
And it helped?
Yes.
It helped.
It was such a relief because it was bleeding and everything.
Oh,
So
wow.
I put that up in my nose, and it was such a relief.
Mhm.
So basically, everything that I had issues with, they were like, "Oh, that's like you're like the 2% people that get like the stuff that we really don't worry about."
Mm-hmm.
But as you're going through this, when you see that, how do you feel when you complete your treatment? And how do you feel as a person, as a woman, when you finish your treatment?
I was so excited when I finished the treatment. I just felt relieved. It's like you feel like brand new. Like you feel like I just accomplished like the worst thing that could have possibly happened in my life, and I conquered it. So I'm
Yeah.
Nice. That is good.
Yeah.
That is good.
Love
I
it.
feel
That's
I feel
good.
really good about
That's
it.
good.
I still don't have my breast back because I had got a double mastectomy. So that's another story. But so that's the last part. And that's the other part. If you have a female that goes through breast cancer and she decides to get both taken, however the doctors decide to go about doing that, it's a process,
Mm-hmm.
for you to, in order for you to get your breast back. But you have to be physically able, meaning healthy. Your heart has to be in,
Because you got Herceptin, right?
right, everything.
She got Herceptin. That's one of the premier drugs, chemotherapy drugs that we use for HER2 positive. And with Herceptin, we got to do a MUGA scan. We got to do echocardiogram to make sure her heart functions well.
Oh.
If her heart doesn't function well, she would not be able to get that drug,
Oh, okay.
that chemotherapy agent.
So I ended up getting my thyroid issue came back. So I wasn't able to get my reconstruction because that was elevated.
Was it Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism?
Hypo. Yeah, so when I saw that, I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. And then it was that, and then my liver count and my kidney count. It was just a mess. And I just was like, are you like, and I was going to physical therapy. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. And then when I went to do the pre-op and everything came back, that's everything that came in there. And I cried. I cried because I was like, I want, because you want to be back whole.
Right.
But
Right.
I will say I have been enjoying not having breasts. It has been like this.
Talk to me about that. That's a new one. Talk to me about that.
It's a free feeling. I don't have to worry about a bra. I don't have to worry about anything. I go to work, I just throw the shirt on and just go. It's just, I don't know. I have been enjoying not having them because I just get up and go. I don't have to worry about that
I
part.
commend you on that because, so many women define themselves.
Yeah.
By the boobies. Yeah.
But you're in the service, but you're a real soldier. Like,
Yeah.
All respect.
I really have been enjoying not having them because some mornings, like, because I don't have the actual bra that you can just put on and, so I have like, the little inserts and I put them in.
The prosthetic.
Right. Well, no, these are like little cotton
Cups, little cotton cups.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I put them in, and then you got to look in the mirror, you got to fix it, adjust it, and then when you're out, they move.
Oh, that's not helpful.
One day, I'm walking, and I just happen to, because I'm always going like this to make sure they're straight. One was up here, and it just got to the point while I was out in public, I just was like this, fixing it, moving it down. People are looking at me, and I'm like, mind your business.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Turn around. This is an adult situation.
Yeah, so I just been, I just been like lately, I'm like, man, I don't even put nothing in. I'm just out.
I love that. That's a good
Yeah.
And this is something that I've heard from other patients. They get to a point where, the things that they used to worry about with their image, they don't worry about it anymore.
It's freeing.
It's just,
It is. It's liberating.
Yes.
Yeah.
You appreciate your body in a new way, and a lot of times it's more for the function than the form. And that, a lot of women experience that when they give birth the first time, but to also go through an experience, like I had major hip surgeries, and that completely changed my perspective around my body. And it's like breast cancer as well, getting your breast removed. It's like, it is a whole new experience. You become a whole new person.
Yeah, because like we as women, we define ourselves by our crowns and by the girls.
Yeah.
And, to just say, I ain't worrying about that no more, that's just awesome.
Yeah, so it was a good like 5 or 6 months without hair and just wake up and go. Put a hat on, put a wig on, and just go. And some days I just was like, I'm not putting a wig on. I just put the hat on or something, a scarf, and just go. And people look that they could tell that are the people that didn't know. They were like, "Oh, you cut your hair?" I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah, I cut my hair.
Yeah.
But I would now moving away from the chemo, the radiation aspect of it. 5 weeks. Every day except for Saturday and Sunday of radiation.
Wow.
When I tell you, by the 3rd week, I was done. I was so exhausted, tired. My skin was starting to, peel
at the side.
It was like, and my doctor, she would say, "Hey, so how are things going?" I'm like, "Oh, it's going." Then, every week she would look to make sure everything was okay. So, I don't know. I think it was the 3rd or the 4th week she looked and she was like, "Oh, God, I didn't think it was that bad." And I was like, yeah. So, I always had to rub it and, couldn't take a proper shower because you didn't want everything, running over. And then you had the lines and stuff that had to stay on there and the tape and everything that had to stay on there. So it was just, that was a lot. But I was exhausted. I thought the chemo was bad. Radiation was the worst. I just fatigue. I just couldn't get it together. And the only thing I could think about in my mind was like, you got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. And I was moving, but at the same time, I was like, I was done. You got people that be like, "Oh, you got this, you got this." And, you people say, "Oh, you got this, you're good, you doing right." And I'm looking in my mind, I'm like, shut up. Just don't say anything to me. I'm tired. I'm irritated. I don't want to be bothered with. But then you're around them and they're like, "Oh, you got it." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." But in my mind, I was like, just leave me alone.
Were you thankful that they were not mind readers?
So that brings up a great point, though. I mean, as women, it can just often be so hard to receive care, to be vulnerable. But then you do have these people come around you in those moments. So, people can't always do the right thing. But if you had to go back and tell your loved ones, this is how I would have liked you to step up, maybe. So, people who are listening, who are going to go through this with their loved ones, how can they maybe do better and be more prepared for the people who are going through something like this?
This ring, when I told my mother, she went out and bought this. And she's been gone 6 years now. But I always know that when I put it on, I had her support.
Mm-hmm.
That mom's support was so important. I'm trying not to get choked up. But, you know, my mom was like, she couldn't understand. Why did it happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, out of all her children, my mother used to say, well, you know, you were the most healthiest one I had out of 5. So why did that happen to you? And I was like, I didn't understand it either. You know, but I used to always say, you know, sometimes a lot of times when I had that conversation with God, I'm like, you know, hey, God, can I see the book of Stephanie Perry just to see what happens next? Okay, I just want to, you know, cheat sheet.
A little peek.
Yeah, okay, we could do Cliff Notes. I'm okay with that. Okay, yeah. But, you know, as I say, he knows what we can bear.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that. And as much as, you know, I was sitting up there and I was like, yeah, okay, I got this. And then inside I'm like, oh, Lord Jesus, I don't have this. Help me. But I still I got that push from him and like, okay, you got this. Keep it moving because you're not just doing this for yourself, but there are other people out here that need that encouragement too. You don't know what somebody is going through. You know, I mean, I would not have thought that you have had a double, okay? And to have one gone, but you just said, nah, both out. That takes a lot, especially in this day and time because we are, like I said, we're defined by that as women. To know who you are and accept, hey, okay, this is mine, handle this and keep it moving.
That's important.
Yeah, my favorite, Walt Disney made a movie called Meet the Robinsons. At the end of it, one of his mottos was keep moving forward.
And that's what you do. You're going to push forward.
Yes.
One of the things a theme that I heard you said is about the radiation being worse than the chemo. Do you think the medical providers prepared you enough prior to treatment so that your expectations were exactly what you were told, or you felt that maybe they should have improved their communication in some way?
Everything that they told me happened. I will say that.
Wow.
The communication was good. Everything they told me happened. It's just I didn't consider how bad the burn was going to be. Like, I didn't really think it was going to get like that bad because I've seen pictures. You know, I did my own research looking at pictures and stuff to see how bad it could get. And just some people were different from me. So,
yes,
you know, and I took that in. So I didn't really think it was going to be that bad. But yeah, it was bad. So that part of it was bad. But the fatigue and stuff, they told me I was going to go through that. I guess more so, I didn't think it was going to take me as long, I guess, to get back healthy. Because I figured, I could just go back out there and run and do. No.
You couldn't do it.
No.
You couldn't do it.
I think it was last month or maybe in July. I walked up 2 flights of steps. Done.
Out of breath.
I was completely done when I got to the top of the steps, and I could not believe it. I just did not realize how bad off I was. So
the fatigue could be very prolonged, very prolonged. Some people experience it a year, 2 years after treatment.
Well, I think that brings up such a great point is like life after cancer, the aftercare, because so much of the focus when you have cancer is how do we treat the cancer? How do we kill the cancer? But it is life altering because as you said, the chemo is not just killing the bad stuff. It also is killing your gut microbiome, which can cause a lot of the hypothyroidism. So it's like when your gut is disturbed, when your adrenals are tanked, when you're going through chemo, you can't have anything in your diet that is antioxidant rich because you have to actually have your immune system suppressed. So if you think about it, you are really draining your life force during that time. And I don't think there is a lot of conversation out there about how do you rebuild yourself after? How do you build back your gut microbiome? How do you build back your adrenal health? And you're still fresh into it, but do you feel like you were given a lot of insight into just like how to build yourself back up?
Nothing. It was just complete silence because I say, okay, well, you got your treatment? Okay, good. get on out the door and get back into life. You know, it was not
That's normal now too.
yeah, yeah. It's like, you know, okay, just keep it moving. But, you know, to know that you've gone through all this because I just had chemo. I just had chemo. That was it. Thank you, Lord. Okay.
Yeah.
But chemo and radiation, and I mean, how did you have any support from anyone after?
So I had support. My family was always there with me.
But
Throughout.
anyone who experienced.
Yes. So I did have people that I could talk to that experienced some
Oh,
things,
that's
even
good.
though that their stuff was still a little different from mine.
Mhm.
I did have people that I could talk to and reach out to.
Did that make it easier for you?
It did, because when I had questions, I would just say, "Hey, like, did you go through this?" You know, like, and also that part when you're going through chemo, your skin gets really dark. So I saw a picture of another female that I talked to, and she's light skinned, and she was darker than me going through chemo. So, and, you know,
Why
and
is that?
Yeah, the change again. You know, you got to remember not only that the cells are dying, but the cells need to clear out the system.
So it's kind of the cellular debris.
The cellular debris building up. So you got it's almost like you're having a lot of deoxygenated blood. You know, we say dirty blood that needs to be cleared out. And you need fresh stuff coming. Exactly, it's close to
Kind of
the
like when you
surface.
get cupping and you notice like someone's really kind of injured or sore, the cupping is so
Much darker.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
You know,
it
think
will
about
return.
bilateral legs. Some people you see them with darker legs in the lower extremities. You would see them with the skin is dark, and that's because the blood is not being able to get back to the heart. So a lot of people who have valvular disease, a lot of valve disease, you see their legs are all darkened. It's the same thing with chemotherapy. When it tears down all those cells, you got to get it out of the body. It got to flush out. And that's why they always tell you, you must drink a lot of water. Hydrate. Kidneys need to flush. Liver needs to flush. Everything needs to flush.
But then also, you know, you say hydrate, you know, did people talk to you? Because, you know, everybody's like, okay, drink water. But the waters don't always have the same amount of nutrients and stuff that you need.
So I started drinking spring water. Like, I did the spring water.
Yes.
So the spring water actually, and what was funny was I did Fuji water at first. For whatever reason, Fuji water was completely drying me out. I was so, like, my mouth was so dry. I just couldn't drink enough of it. So I had to switch it. So when I switched it, you know, I was fine. So I don't know why with Fuji water, I was like, I just couldn't, I just was dehydrated all the time. So I switched it, and the water I started using was better. Because they told me, they said, drink water. They say, even if you have to put like a little, like, I guess, energy.
One of the hydration packages.
Right, in there to flavor it or anything like that. Because I knew that was my biggest issue, was drinking enough water. Because it's, you know, going through chemo, some days you just didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
You didn't want to eat. You didn't want to get out the bed. You didn't want to walk around. So even when I was in the house, I had to walk up and down the steps, walk around in circles, because certain days, my legs were paining me, my arms were paining me. So I would get up and walk around to, like, you know, get the blood circulating. But then, like, I'll lay back down and it felt like somebody was just beating on my body. So, you know, I had to just get up and moving, drinking more water. Then they say drink Gatorade.
Oh no.
That's the worst.
But so for me, I had to do the Gatorade because I forget what I had to do. Why I had to do the. I had to do
the dehydration.
It wasn't a part of the dehydration. It was, I can't remember what it was, because it was like either that or Claritin. But I can't remember what it was that I was experiencing that they told me I had to do like to drink Gatorade.
Was it eating sugar?
So, no, I just can't remember what it was. The Gatorade, though, I would sip it. I never, like, would crush bottles of it.
Okay.
One of the things I want to do, because I know Miss Tillie could respond to this. Could you tell us why it is the Fuji water
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Could you talk to us a little bit about
Let's
that?
talk about hydration in general, because I sometimes can't stand when people are like, drink more water. It's so much more complex than that.
Right.
So essentially, you have these minerals, these electrolytes, that help stabilize the hydration within your cells. So you want an equal balance within the cell and outside of the cell so that you can be properly hydrated. Now, water nowadays is pretty devoid of minerals. You know, that's why spring water is so great. And most of us drink filtered water, which has no minerals in it. And still, you definitely want to drink filtered water because there's so much gunk in our water, but it's devoid of minerals. So what happens is when you keep hydrating yourself with mineralless water, it actually causes more dehydration. And this is because there becomes an imbalance in your cells. So what happens is as you're getting this influx of that water, your cells are like, oh my goodness, I need to hold on to the little salt I have. So it starts holding on to that salt and propelling more water out. And that's why a lot of people who are like, I'm drinking so much plain water now, are peeing constantly and they feel miserable. But what happens is when they're constantly peeing and holding onto that salt, it causes them to leach out magnesium and potassium as well, which are really important for that mineral balance. So that's why you also feel so dehydrated and you're chronically thirsty. So that's why I always recommend like every single person remineralize every day 20 ounces of water with electrolytes. Now, can't stand liquid IV. Horrible. Can't stand Gatorade. Horrible. And the thing is, the fact that your doctors were saying Gatorade, like there are going to be a million other things that have what they probably thought Gatorade had, which Gatorade is really just sugar and doesn't even have a good balance of electrolytes. When we post this, I can give a list of some good electrolyte brands, so we can link that at the bottom.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of great options out there. One of the best is just coconut water. You know,
Yes, I love
plain
coconut
pure
water.
Coconut water.
Yes.
That's a great option. Orange. So just squeezing some orange, a pinch of Celtic sea salt. That's a way you can just like naturally do it without getting a powder.
Beautiful.
But there are a lot of great powders out there. But that's why hydration is so important. But it's really about the minerals. So you can actually get away with drinking a lot less water. The Europeans do it. You go to Europe and you're like, wow, no one's drinking water here, whereas Americans walk around with this giant water bottle. And it's because they get the minerals they need out of their water. So if you are remineralizing your water throughout the day, you don't need to be drinking a whole, what is it? They say like 100.
A gallon a day.
Like a gallon a day. I'm like, that is so much. Like it's really, I always say hit 60 ounces as like your bare minimum. And 20 ounces of that needs to be remineralized. And then after that, drink based off of thirst. And that's the target.
What about mineral drops?
Mineral drops? Well, so those can be great. Those are electrolytes. But it again, depends on the brand. Like Trace Minerals, they do amazing mineral drops. And it's just pure. So those are really good.
I carry my mineral drops.
Oh, that's good. Yes.
When I do my water, I even slip it in my coffee or my tea.
Oh, I love that.
Because I notice how much it makes a difference when I don't take it. I can feel that difference.
Oh yeah. I always tell people, like if you get that midday crash, you're tired, don't go for a coffee, just go for some electrolytes. You'll notice it like wakes you right up.
Yes.
So that's a good tip.
Yeah.
That's a really good tip. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk quickly about recurrence, because a lot of times breast cancer survivors, they worry a lot about, is this cancer going to come back? Have your doctors tell you any projection about the type of cancer you have and the risk of it coming back? What have you learned from the type of cancer you have?
My doctor doesn't take the time to understand what I'm going through. I'm like, like you said, your doctor, hey, you got cancer, keep moving. Okay, and it's like afterwards, it's we haven't had that conversation of, be concerned about this, and is there anything you want to talk about? No, it's like, oh, Miss Perry, it's time for your annual. That's it.
That's it. Your experience, have they?
So with me, I have to see my breast doctor now yearly. But so my doctors actually, they talk to me about it.
Yes.
They tell me like, it's always that possibility can come back. That's why I have to stay on my meds. And every time they see me, they say, hey, how's your diet? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying, well, at least I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to do and not, go off the deep end and just eat fried chicken and everything all the time. But I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to do. But also I would say being active and actually working out and staying in shape, that's one thing to help, with the not having the reoccurrence, but as for me, I won't have to get any more mammograms because
You don't have no boobs anymore.
so I don't have to get any more mammograms.
Yeah.
That's a plus.
So the reason why I brought this up is that this is one of the reasons why I wrote this book in 2017. This is called Detecting and Living with Breast Cancer for Dummies. I had so many patients that after they finished breast cancer, they were lacking information as to what to do for surveillance. How do I reduce the risk of this breast cancer coming back? What can I possibly do in my power to be healthier? So I decided to take inventory. I had like 10 breast cancer survivor stories that I have in here. And what I tried to do is to be able to give more of a comprehensive look. I had nutrition, talk about a little bit about lifestyle changes, a little bit about what sleep does, mental health, because the biggest piece, the brain controls what we do in our behaviors. So if we have depression, if we have anxiety, if we're traumatized and those things goes unchecked, they do have a physical detriment to our bodies, right? We have a lot of times our survivors, they lost relationships, they go through divorce, they go through breakups, they lose jobs, they lose a lot of things, and they're struggling out there. And not because survivors are not saying it to the providers, the medical providers are not asking the right questions, or the survivors are not volunteering it. So one of the things I want to make sure I gift to you all today is a signed copy of this book, Detecting and Living with Breast Cancer for Dummies. And I would like you, after you read it, to share it to other members in your community.
Okay.
Because it's very important that we take your stories and we share it with the community, and they too know that they can survive after breast cancer.
Yes.
Right? One of the biggest things I want to talk about is sexuality. How do you feel about your body now?
Next one, you can go ahead and say. I'm like, that's a book.
I don't want to be bothered.
Ditto.
I don't want to be touched. I just, like that whole aspect of it is like, and I'm always getting asked that, like, I just don't want to have to bring someone else into what I'm going through right now, because I don't want, like you said, it's psychological, and I'm always going to be thinking, okay, he's looking at me funny because I ain't got no breasts.
Yes.
Or, he's going to want to cuddle and I ain't got no breasts. So like, it's always going to be, lead to that. Like, because most guys, if they give you a hug or something, they go like this. I'm like, it's nothing there, so I don't know. It's like, what are you reaching for? Like that kind of thing. And I don't want to be insecure or, like mentally just have myself feeling like I'm insecure, and I don't. So I just don't. No, I just keep to myself.
I get that. You don't need that right now.
Yeah.
It's about you right now.
It's about you.
Yeah. And then also I'm like, since mine's the sex drive is like practically down here, because really I still like I tell other ladies, I have to be okay with me.
Yes.
I'm not worried about validation from any man. I'm not saying that, hey, it would be good to be in a relationship, but just right now, I'm not tasting that in my senses right now. But also, if I could, on another note, one of my best friends, and she was my former manager, Christina Hartwright, she was a breast cancer survivor for over 11 years. And then she had one removed but kept the other one. And she developed a blood cancer after that. But during that time, one thing that she taught me was we as women of color, we don't volunteer for testing to be done to make sure that our community is being taken care of. And so she used to do an annual walk in October to promote breast cancer awareness
And research.
for women of color. And thank you so much for doing this, because it's so important for us to get out here and talk about it and be aware that we can survive and we are surviving.
We are survivors.
And
That's
you,
it.
and you guys are thriving, okay? You
Oh,
are
most
thriving.
yes.
Yes.
I will say that, I don't know you two from before, but whatever this journey has done, it has definitely empowered you. You both are inspiring women. And I guess, just to wrap up, do you have any words of empowerment for women who are currently going through this?
So I will say any women that are going through this right now, the biggest part is working out. Before you start chemo, once you start chemo, do not stop working out, because that's going to help with your fatigue and everything. And me going through physical therapy probably was like the best thing that I could have done, because it helped me get past some stuff, or the fatigue part of it. Working out, because if you don't, you're going through chemo and you're sitting around, you're laying around, you don't want to do anything, it's going to be harder for you to gain your strength back once chemo is over.
And that's true. The treatment for fatigue is exercise.
Yep.
Get active.
And also, I activate my faith. On those nights when it was like, I felt like it was alone and I wanted to give up. I was like, this is going to be hard, but my faith kept me strong. And I hear this, if you don't mind joining my hand, I kind of hear Beyonce's song, we're survivors. We are survivors. Okay? Sisterhood. Women of color. We are making it. And with wonderful people like you encouraging us and supporting us, man, this is a cakewalk.
So one thing I want to say, I thank you so much for your service, Dante, but for our veterans and our servicemen all over the country, females and males, men do get breast cancer.
Yes.
And in my years of providing breast cancer treatment at Johns Hopkins Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center, I have treated many males and females with breast cancer. We always think of the risk factors to increase your risk of breast cancer. We know there's a genetic risk where you can have a BRCA mutation or other types of mutations that runs in family, and they couple with breast, with ovarian, with thyroid, with melanoma. We know those risks do exist. But there's other risk factors. The environment that we live in. The environment that we were exposed to. And when we think of our military servicemen being deployed, they might be exposed to different types of elements. And, it's very important that our servicemen get screened with their mammograms, that they follow through when they have any abnormal findings in their breasts. But then we also have things that can happen that can lead us, the type of work, occupational hazard. We know there's a lot of occupational hazard with other types of cancers. So it's very important that we love our bodies, that we put our bodies first. Fear is not the answer.
Right.
The good news about getting the treatment and screening and being diagnosed early is that you can survive this. So this is what is it that I get from this discussion today, is being able to survive a cancer. It could be prostate cancer, it could be colon cancer, but early detection and early treatment and making sure you galvanize your support system and you keep your faith strong. These are the elements for success to becoming a survivor.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Looking forward to reading the book.
Yes, it's going to be good. And thank you for joining us for Health Talks by YWS. and we will have some next segments coming up soon.
You
Thank
at
you.
the gym right now, come on and work it out. See, health is wealth, come on and work it out. Yeah, come on. It's about you and me. Let's come together, positivity. It's about me. Health is wealth, gotta take care of myself. Cause ain't nobody gonna make the change but me. So let me put in the work and be the best version of me.